Okay, so a little drill work you can go through with your kids. We can start with something very basic, just a general throwing progression, just to help the kids work from the top all the way down. What I mean by that is we want to kind of isolate and pick apart the throwing motion so that kids can have an understanding of how the entire body has to work through the whole process. So rather than getting them to go out down, oh, kids go down the line, go warm up, and they go get a ball, and they just start whipping balls to their partner, and they're doing a lot of things correct maybe, but a lot of things potentially incorrect. We can isolate. We can look at one specific part of the throwing motion and work on that to then move into something else and incorporate a little bit more, move into something else, incorporate a little bit more. So a good way to start with the kids is to get them to think about just their shoulders and how their arm is going to come out. Then we'll work our way down through the body. So with their partner, throwing with their partner, not far, 15, 20 feet. Feet about shoulder width apart, toes facing their target to start. Hands about shoulder height, not too high, not too low, hands about shoulder height. And all we're going to get them to do is work on the break of their hands, palm down, the rotation of their shoulders through their spine, staying very centered. And all they're going to do is break their hands and turn and end up with their elbows same height as their shoulders and both their hands about the same height of their shoulders. And what they're going to do from here is they're going to break hands, turn, and then they're going to make their throw from there. Get them to do a couple demos to start. So it's not a matter of getting here and just taking one move and throwing the baseball. Get them to demo a couple times. So they're starting here, and it's a break of the hands and turn. Come back to center. Break of the hands and turn. Back to center. Break of the hands and turn. And then maybe on the second or third one they can throw. On the second or third one or fourth one when they do make their throw, there's no pause. Leading up to that in the demos, they're stopping. So if I'm throwing my target over here, it's a break of the hands, turn to here, make sure that I'm in a good spot. I'm not reaching out, not leaning back. Break of the hands to here. Break of the hands to here, and then maybe on this next one I'm going to throw, and it's all in one motion. So it's break of the hands and throw. From there, you can move into something that starts a little bit more the trunk becoming a little bit more active, and what you can do is you can now put them in a position where rather than their feet side by side, now they have that lead leg out in front of them a little bit, their other foot behind them a little bit. So now, kind of the same movement, break of the hands, a couple demos, but now because their lead leg is in front of them a little bit, now they can actually work their trunk out a little bit more to get into their throw. We want them to keep their hips back. We want them to deliver the baseball here with their trunk and their shoulders and their arms. So now we're working our way down the body, getting a little bit more active through the whole body. So it's a similar process. Starting here about shoulder height, we're trying to break the hands, shoulder height, break the hands. Maybe on the third one we'll throw, and we're going to get a little more active with our trunk, break the hands, finishing out here. The finish isn't so much a finish with the arm. Encourage the kids to not finish with the arm. Follow through, sure, follow through. But it's a following through with the trunk and the whole body. The lead leg keeps them nice and stable. Their hips stay back. They follow through with their trunk and then eventually with their arms. So this isn't a good follow through right here. It's putting a lot of stress on the elbow, the shoulder to do all the work. Going from there, we want to create a little bit more momentum. So rather than starting square, that'll be the last step. Now we can start here. This one is tricky for a lot of kids because the second they get in this position and they start going that way, a lot of them want to come back here like this to get more momentum, but it's just going to result in them trying to throw uphill and then having to redirect everything and throw back downhill. So this is where we really want to encourage them to stay tall with their spine, not reach back too far. This is one that you're probably not going to be able to demo very much because it's going to be a little awkward for the kids to step out and step back and step out and step back. At this point, it's just a small movement forward. They can kind of lean into it a little bit, not getting over here, but also not getting back here. Starting here, working on the break of the hands. The second that lead foot kind of comes off the ground, the hands are going to break, the trunk is going to turn, and as they land, hopefully they'll be about in this position. So it's just starting here, staying very tall, not reaching too far back. We got the arm going now, we got the trunk going now, we got the legs providing a little bit momentum. Now we can start to use our hips to turn into our throw a little bit. So what we're going to do now, we'll start here, a little bit more square to our target. Hands are starting together now. So now we're kind of adding everything in. We're really working on the break of the hands. We're working on the not reaching too far back. We're working on the not getting here where we're trying to throw uphill too much. Just starting here, a little bit balanced. We're not making any moves backwards. All we're doing is removing our front foot. And as that front foot removes, our hands are going to break. We're going to land in a good, stable position here so that we can deliver the baseball. As you can see, I'm kind of staying behind on my lower half. My knee is behind my heel and my hip is behind my knee. We're following through with our whole body, and then inevitably the arm is going to come down and across a little bit too. And we're keeping an eye on the kids to make sure that they're really staying on target, both in terms of how they start squared up and in terms of where they're landing. We don't want them starting too closed and then landing too much on this side, so then they have to throw across their body. And we don't want them starting too open, because then we're not getting the most out of our hips, and we don't want them striding too far open, because now everything kind of wants to go that way, but we got to redirect and go that way. So these are all just some simple activities you can do, both in terms of drill work, but part of warming up to get the kids going, to get all the timing of everything working right, and making sure they have good posture and a good setup in order to throw the ball efficiently and effectively. If this is part of warm up and they're stretching out, you can then go into a couple extra moves where they have to get a little bit more momentum to make their throw. And what I mean by that is you can start with feet really, really wide, and it turns more into a replacing of the feet, a bit of a shuffle step. Maybe they rock back a little bit, and then the back foot replaces the front foot, and they get to here to make their throw. Some kids are going to feel a little bit more comfortable kind of crow hopping and crossing over in front. Some kids are going to feel a little more comfortable stepping behind. Neither of them are right, neither of them are wrong. They're both very good. Again, this depends on the kid. Some kids feel a little more comfortable stepping over in front, but that can be problematic because immediately the hips and the shoulders might kind of open up to face that way. Some kids might want to kind of step behind, which might be problematic because now they're a little bit more squared up to that way. So a lot of kids, you might want to work on just kind of replacing the back foot to the front foot. So as they kind of reach out, throw a little bit further, you can work on those kind of pieces of it too. It's just a replace of the foot back to front, and then they make a throw. And it's also cool for them to step in front foot. And it's also okay for them to step behind their front foot, where the trail foot kind of steps behind and they get a little bit more loaded further.